Engage.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Winners Don't Use Drugs, presented by Engage Gaming, episode 75. I'm Darius here with Zac. How you feeling?
What up? I'm tired.
Yeah. And we'll say 83% of Nolan.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Today's a very special episode, man.
Is it?
Yeah. This is gonna be cool. This is gonna be exciting. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be informative. It's gonna be emotional.
It can be emotional.
Emotional.
It's gonna be emotional.
I ain't ready for that.
Yeah. It's just gonna cut to a scene of me being like, "And you never taught me how to love, Dad." Yeah, that's good. You never taught. What are we doing today?
So we're doing something a little different.
Okay.
Me and Darius had this idea, 2 years ago? We were going to start a whole new podcast, and as you can tell from our ruined weekends and bangers of the week, we didn't do that shit.
Did not.
So the podcast was going to be called TimeSplitters, and we're going to talk about history of gaming, just different historical things that have happened in gaming, how they've shaped the way gaming is today and stuff like that. So what we're going to do going forward is every few months we'll have one of these episodes, a time splitter episode, if you will, where we're going to go through the history of gaming in some form of aspect or way. Today yes, it is history of gaming, but it's a little bit different than the idea that we had. But we will have, we talked about, what happened in the development of Duke Nukem Forever, or the falling out between Sony and Nintendo, stuff like that. But today, we're going to talk about Capcom and their history and their place in the gaming world and what they've contributed, their biggest wins and some of their downfalls, and just kind of how they've been doing a lot of good things over the last 3 years.
Yes.
Really good things. I feel like they're probably near the top of the gaming companies, as far as what they're delivering and the detail and quality of product that they're releasing, gaming wise. I think they're near the top in the last 5 years, last 3 years.
They've definitely brought the feeling back that if they're making a game, I don't have to worry about it as much. There was a point where I don't have to worry about it at all. Mm-hmm. And then they had so many uh-ohs that it was like, I kind of can't trust you. But now I think they're definitely getting back to figuring out how to make the best Capcom games, which are they're industry leaders, and they're maybe, obviously they're not going to do the Grand Theft Auto numbers, but they're one of the top selling companies ever. As far as overall software and stuff like that. And brand recognition and things like that are starting to become important again, because of all the options that people have. Just because you used to do something, if you fell off, people aren't trusting you anymore. So Capcom has done a lot to restore their image, and this year might be one of their best years based on just the level of quality and potentially the sales. They could be in a situation where they have multiple games as Game of the Year candidates.
Yeah.
And that's that's hard for any company to do, but just, as we go through the timeline, there'll be some times where, if you didn't already know, you might not think they're going to make it.
Yeah. So we're going to start from the beginning of where they came up. And it's funny you mentioned Rockstar, because they play a part of this.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's not a huge part, but
I know. Yeah.
They have a dealing with Capcom.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That changes some of the landscape of the gaming world.
Okay.
For Rockstar, yeah.
Yeah, for Rockstar.
Yeah.
All right. So like I said, we're gonna start from the beginning. Where they came from. Just bear with us.
It's gonna be fun.
I got my notes.
I don't really know how comfortable I feel with Zac pulling out papers and whatnot, but I'm gonna let him rock. I trust his vision.
Amen.
All right. The original companies that spawned Capcom's Japan branch were IRM and its subsidiary Japan Capsule Computers Company Limited, both of which were devoted to the manufacturing and distribution of electronic game machines. The two companies underwent a name change to Sanbai Company Limited. And if I butcher these names, get
Move
over
past it.
because I will butcher some of these names.
Only name you need to know is Capcom.
The name changed to Sanbai Company Limited in September of 1981. And on June 11th, 1983, Kenzo Sugimoto. Did I see it? Yeah.
Hey, keep going.
I gotta, he's gonna actually me.
Actually,
I'm trying not to.
he's holding himself back.
Kenzo Sugimoto established Capcom Company Limited for the purpose of taking over the internal sales department.
Yep.
And in January 1989, Capcom merged with Sanbai, resulting in the current Japan branch. Obviously, the name Capcom came from Capsule Computers. It's the first three letters of each word, Capcom. So that's where that name came from. It was a term coined by Capsule Computers was a term coined by the company for the arcade machines it solely manufactured in its early years. So it obviously started off as an arcade company. It didn't delve into the home consoles until a little bit later. So Capcom's first coin-operated arcade game was a game called Little League. I tried looking that shit up. I could not find anything about it. I don't think it was an arcade game in traditional. I think it would be more closely related to like a pinball machine.
Probably.
Yeah, a lot of.
If I remember.
The thing about the arcades and stuff is a lot of the games for those companies weren't video games necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
They were more like you said, pinball, but it might be something where it's not traditional style
Yeah.
pinball, but
Like
you're
hitting
still
like a ball bearing with a bat.
Yeah.
Because they had a bowling game that was huge, apparently.
yeah. See, it's stuff like that.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to
Sorry.
that.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
But it's funny you bring that up because we'll get to that. That plays a key role in Capcom's history. So the first actual released video game is, let me see how to do this. Vulgus.
Yeah, I remember that.
On May 1984. I'm sorry, the Little League game was released in 1983. So a year later, they released their very first actual video game.
Somebody
Vulgus.
else's name is on that advertising.
SNK.
So what's up with that?
I don't know.
That was probably like they released it somewhere. That was
Okay.
probably that box art. Yeah.
It was the one I could find.
Because
Okay.
yeah.
So Vulgus, as some of you can see if you're watching the YouTube video, is a top-down shooter.
The standard
much to like 1942.
Yeah, it's the precursor to all of that.
Was, yeah.
And it played. I mean, I played it just going back, and Capcom's put it on collections and stuff like that too. I mean, it's in '84. This is the video game. This is good money right here.
Yeah.
Go to the arcade. You see this? I'm gonna go ahead and pop a quarter in and see what I can get.
I remember Vulgus.
Also, it gets hard. We didn't have bullet hells yet. These are just considered shoot 'em ups. They're not bullet hells necessarily.
Yeah.
But sometimes the screen gets full, so that's kind of a bullet hell. Like,
I mean, and they were made to eat your quarters.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Let's go ahead and get that just laid out for everybody. Arcade machines. If you somehow don't really understand, like, the purpose of them was to eat quarters. Like, the early versions of these games aren't what you think you see. Even in the late 80s, early 90s, when fighting games started to take off, like, this is put the quarter in. The games are good. They're fun. But they're going to cheat you a little bit. It's going to happen. This is what they do.
Yeah.
All right. So this comes out, big success. They figure out what they want to do. So in 1984, Yoshiki Okamoto, a young designer, joins the company.
Uh-oh.
He is a pioneer for Capcom. He makes a ton of great games. He used to actually work for Konami at first, but then transitioned to Capcom in 1984, where he directed several arcade games such as 1942.
Yeah.
The classic.
Sun,
Ooh, I didn't know he did that.
The classic.
Sidearms,
Trying to use classic
and Gunsmoke.
real loose. I like Sun, but I didn't know it was a classic.
Yeah, nah.
And actually, if Gunsmoke,
Gunsmoke.
Used a gun, didn't it?
No.
no.
as in
I
like
think
a-
it was like a top-down shooter.
It was like top down, yeah. I
but it
remember.
was what inspired Red Dead Revolver.
Really?
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yep. I used to play that game in the arcades. I remember Gunsmoke.
So it's
you
kinda
talking
like-
about that game was hard.
I can believe.
I mean, I was a little kid too, but I remember. I remember we put the quarter in, and you'd be running up the street, and you turn to the left, turn to the right, and dead.
So I was, when I was putting all this together, I'd never heard of Gunsmoke.
Oh,
So
really?
Yeah. So I like some of these games I never heard of. So I looked them up and was watching it, and it's funny because remember the game that we were trying to make?
Oh yeah.
It's basically Gunsmoke, but
Yeah.
an up-to-date version.
Yeah.
And I had never seen it, so it wasn't like it was something inspired by it. I just thought it was kind of funny that it was very similar.
Well, you had a lot of these top down, like you play a guy and you're shooting. So pre-Contra, and this is kind of sidetrack, but this is still history of games. So Contra was crazy because at least for me, it was the first time where they did the side-scrolling gun stuff. Because normally every game, even when it was soldiers and stuff, even like Commando and all that stuff, it was always top down.
Yep.
And you walk into the dude is like, some sort of thing holding 2 machine guns somehow or 2 pistols. And then, like you said, you walk up and be some dude, shoot you from the side, you die.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, just seeing like there was so many different versions of that, but it's funny that how that game just picking a Western setting because everybody was doing like you fake Rambo games. That's basically what they were doing. They were doing like
More or
fake
less,
We're
Rambo.
doing
yeah.
like that, and then like airplane games.
Yeah, exactly. Then throw a Western game in there, boom, pops off.
Yeah.
And 1942 is just an amazing shoot 'em up.
Yeah, it's
So-
just still fun.
Oh yeah. We played it the other day.
Yeah.
So starting with the arcade hit 1942, they began to design games for international purposes. The successful 1985 arcade games like Commando and Ghosts and Goblins have been credited as the products that show Capcom to be 8-bit silicon stardom in the 1980s.
Yeah. Ghost and Goblins was the first Capcom game I remember playing like home console. And I just like there's nothing that looked like Ghosts and Goblins because like Castlevania was another game in that kind of monster killing genre, right? But Castlevania doesn't look like Ghosts and
But
Goblins.
when did Castlevania start? Like when did it first release?
Oh, yeah, Ghosts and Goblins
It was the 80s.
Yeah, both
But Ghost
in the
and Goblins,
80s,
I'm
but-
pretty sure it was first.
Yeah, Ghosts and
Yeah.
Goblins is like 84,
That's what I
85.
was thinking.
Yeah. But like
Castlevania was more like 88, right?
yeah, it's late.
87, 80.
Yeah,
Maybe.
it's around the time of like Ninja Gaiden is when Castlevania comes out. But just seeing like you start up Ghosts and Goblins, they show you the whole game first, but like map version, and it was like, oh snaps, they showing you because normally that was part of the fun in games too, was like what's the next
What's
level?
next? Yeah.
But they're showing you a preview, so like you already charged. I get to see what's gonna be there. Okay, and then they showed a little cutscene.
Don't fucking matter.
Yeah.
You ain't getting there.
You ain't
First,
getting there, no.
okay, it's good to dream, isn't it? But I just remember being like, no game is presenting itself like this, just the startup style, and then having a character that looked like a guy, like kind of more focused on his facial features, like he got the beard and
Get the beard
everything.
and everything, yeah.
And then getting knocked into your draws. It's just a brilliant design choice.
It was kind of like Dark Souls back then.
Yeah,
Because in Dark Souls, when you die, you go to like that skeletal form.
yeah. Like just that's what made Capcom, even in the early days, such a like you started to kind of just see that name and be like, okay, I see you.
Yeah, their stuff definitely stood out. I remember Ghosts and Goblins in the arcade. Oh, it's like
I'm not paying money for that.
exactly. You most folks played it once, and it's like, nah, ain't no way.
Oh, it's not the easiest game to play. I tell you
It
that.
was so hard.
It's hard. It's hard because there's limitations to like just gaming in general back then, right? But it was something like almost cruel about that game.
Yeah.
Like it was like a setup. It's like, okay, you get knocked this way. If you go backwards, like enemies respawn.
Yeah,
That is those things that they never stop. Like, you just never stop coming.
They come up behind you, and it's like what, stuff coming at you from every angle. It's
Then things start flying.
Because you've always been used to things coming from the right side of the screen.
Yep.
But keeping it going, Capcom is clearly, this guy is ushering in a wave.
Yeah. So in support of its growing international success, the company launched its first foreign subsidiary in the U.S. in 1985.
NES is booming.
Starting with Commando in late 1985,
Commando.
Capcom begins licensing their arcade games for release on home computers.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning with the NES port of 1942, published in December of 85, the company ventured into the market of home console video games, which would eventually become its main business.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when they started off with arcade games solely, and then starting in 85 is when they got around to the idea of releasing games for the home console. This was a big step for them. And it got their name out to more people that didn't know who they were.
Oh, yeah.
Because there were people that just didn't go to the arcades because they saw them as just
if you were
sleazy,
Waste of time.
waste of time.
If you're in the games and you had the ability to own a home version of it, like particularly the NES, like you said, if it's 85, if you like video games and you can afford it, you have an NES and you're not really thinking about the arcade. Like when I started,
well, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, there's gonna be some games that for a minute it's gonna be arcade exclusive.
Well, no, there was still very much a reason to go to the arcade because the home versions still wasn't the arcade.
Yeah,
That's true. Ghosts and Goblins on the NES allowed you the ability to play the game at your own pace and learn how to do it and die a million times and keep playing.
But me as like a 4-year-old during that time,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to an arcade.
Oh shoot! It was still arcade games were still better.
Also,
yeah, but I was a
still
4-year-old. I was
and-
not going to go to an arcade at 4 years
Well,
old.
I was older.
yeah. Well,
That's what I'm saying. There's a different
Yeah.
there's different reasons for it.
Yeah, you do have this, like, you have to think too is, like, you lived in Mobile,
Mm-hmm.
so y'all had arcades and stuff. I was in McIntosh and 4 years old, but also like I got a Nintendo because we're not going to the arcade ever.
I mean, here it was like every gas station. We had 2 big arcades, and then when Walmart started opening up in the late '80s, the front of the Walmart was basically an arcade.
Oh yeah,
arcade
all
machines all over the
department
place.
stores are like that.
Yeah,
going to Walmart as a kid was a complete adventure because there were so many things to do.
Oh, Mom loved it. If she had a couple of bucks, she give us both $2 and leave us at the door at Walmart to get kidnapped by anybody.
Oh yeah. Different time.
Because that's what the arcade was. As we walked in those doors, and it was like 2 arcade machines, 3 arcade machines, 2 arcade machines on the side, and one more over here against the other wall. I mean, it was a full arcade in there.
Yeah.
But it was right at the front door. Somebody could have just came in and snatched up whatever they wanted.
This is gonna sound really bad, and this is off subject, but I wonder how many
kidnappings. I wonder that actually,
because it was like you would rarely see this. This is the crazy thing during these times. How many adults did you really see when you were in the arcade areas of places?
Oh, not many at all.
Yeah, there was.
Like I said, she would give us both $2, and she was off the shop, so she could shop in peace. We sit up and play, Willow and Pit Fighter and whatever else.
I'm bad.
Oh God, bad.
Whenever you
dudes.
saw adults, though, they're usually in groups too.
Yeah,
It wasn't like just one dude just sitting in there.
Yeah, like in a lot of these places didn't even have an actual attendant because it was attached to Walmart. There you go. If something happens, they go get the Walmart people.
Well, yeah.
I think the most I went to an arcade was at when we went to go get pizza and stuff. That's where
Pizza places were.
Oh yeah.
Pizza Hut. Go back to your roots, okay?
Especially
God fuck.
if there's anybody in Oregon listening to this, Wallery's in Salem
Ooh,
is that was my favorite all-time place to
yeah,
go. Yeah, and they're still around, and they still have an arcade.
because they know better.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every time we go back to Oregon, I try and go there.
That's dope.
It's the best pizza I've ever had.
Really?
It's still the best pizza I've ever had.
And they got arcades.
And they have 3 rooms of arcades. Like they're not huge rooms. They're
Yeah.
like I say if you put both of these rooms together, it's probably about that big.
I mean,
That's enough.
yeah, fill it up with arcade machines. Shoot. But back to Capcom.
Oh yeah. That's what we're here about. All right. So some small little game came out in 1987, known as Mega Man. Mega Man, known as Rockman in Japan, was released for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1987 and spawned a franchise that expanded to over 50 games on multiple systems. As of July 26, 2022, the series has sold 38 million units worldwide. Was created by Akira Katamura, with artist Kenji Inafune providing detailed character artwork based on the Katamura's pixel art design.
How'd you feel when Mega Man came out? Because I played Mega Man technically later than when it was originally released.
Okay.
Same.
When Mega Man came out, we didn't play this game for like years because we saw that cover art. And
what about that cover art doesn't make you want to play that? The dude with a gun with like futuristic behind him.
The place we went to rent games from, they just had like little cards that had the cover art of the games, but they didn't have the game, what the game looked like.
Yeah.
So we only saw that cover art and we're like, what the hell is this? Some left-handed guy holding a gun in a weird looking blue and gold suit in front of a weird city. No, I'm not playing that.
First and foremost, why you got to make fun of the dude for being left-handed?
I don't know.
That's a weird thing to. Aren't you left-handed?
No.
Oh, Steven's left-handed.
Oh, that's right. I get it now.
Bang.
But
why? I do have a question on the cover art. Why does he have yellow when in the game he doesn't have yellow?
So the story behind the art itself, from what I remember, the artist that did it was basically given like a day or two to paint all of this, get it printed to where they could use it and scanned in and print it on the games, because the game was going to print like in a couple of days. And they came to him last minute. So he basically painted that thing overnight, given a description of what the game is. So it's a blue guy and he has a gun and he's fighting he's fighting like stuff, but it's going to be like a futuristic landscape, and that's all he had to go off of. So that's what he came up with.
He didn't tell him it was a robot?
Probably not. I mean, it was one of those things where Capcom Japan called Capcom USA, said, "Hey, this game's going to print." We're like, "Hey, we don't have any artwork. Call somebody real quick. Somebody knew somebody. Hey, you think you can get this done in a couple of days? I can stay up all night and try." So he did.
Well, my question was always, why didn't they think we would just why couldn't they just change the Rockman cover to say Mega Man? I always thought that was so weird.
So you got to remember back in the 80s, the Japanese thought that Americans wouldn't like anything too Japanese. Because remember, anime is not a thing over here.
No, not yet.
No.
Not at all.
Dragon Ball's the first thing.
You talking about that artwork over here? It's not going to work.
Well, the thing with that
folks
artwork,
are going to look at it and think, first they're gonna think it looks dumb. Why are their eyes so big? It's like it looks like a small child's thing. I'm not messing with this. It usually, if you look at most game art back in the 80s, especially,
it's stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
semi-realistic,
harder, more realistic. Now, going back to when we finally did play it, we went somewhere else and we finally got to see the back of the box for the game, and we see, that stuff. And now we're thinking, wait, this can't be the same game. Because, wait, that's what the game looks. So what's the cover? I am confused. So we still didn't play it for a long time. Finally, about maybe 2 years after it came out, there was nothing else to play. Well, let's give this blue guy game a try. And yeah.
Feel like you wasting a lot of time.
Yeah.
Well, see, I never saw as a kid. The first time I played Mega Man, it was at someone else's house. And the game is just in the Nintendo. They're like, you want to play Mega Man? Yeah. And I had heard that name before, but whatever, cool. It's a Nintendo game. Pop it in. What's the worst that could happen? And I played, I'm like, oh, this is really cool and hard. And, this is a good game. And I ended up getting Mega Man for the Game Boy. It was the first one I owned.
Okay.
But I ended up seeing the cover later and used to be like, yeah, this is a stupid cover. Like in '93, I saw that cover and was like, this is a stupid cover.
Well,
especially knowing what Mega Man was. But I get it. As just it's fun to look at how these Japanese companies, which is why Capcom is so cool, because it's a Japanese company that, you know, had to tailor things to American audiences.
Oh, they all kind of did back then.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, but then when they do like the celebrations of it, we want the anime Mega Man.
Well, yeah, because that's what we know now. Yeah, we sure were confused. We thought for sure, well, the back of the back of the box can't be right. This isn't the same thing, because that doesn't look anything like the front.
It doesn't make sense to anything that actually happens in Mega Man.
You know? And
maybe he's got Cutman powers already and we just don't know it.
Yeah. And you know what? It just occurred to me, when he runs to the right, he is shooting out of his left hand, so technically he's left-handed.
Well, he's right-handed, but his gun is in his...
But the gun is on the left, yeah. That's why.
How do you know he's right-handed?
I seen him hold I seen him hold stuff in his right hand.
It's the only hand that he has.
You can't hold stuff in your
fingers.
In your non-dominant hand.
Buster cannon. I mean,
I hold my phone in my left hand.
He could put stuff in the hole and like hold it up. I don't know.
Jam the hilt to the top of it. I shoot the sword at you.
Yeah. So I guess I'm the outside on this one. I've never really liked Mega Man. Never been a fan.
I can understand it.
So
my relationship with Mega Man is, I played it. It was cool. I had it on Game Boy because it's Capcom. I know what this is, at least. But I didn't really start liking Mega Man until X. Mega Man was cool.
So we played the first one. The second one was out by then. So we immediately went and played the second game. That was the game.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the one with Yellow Devil and all of that, right?
Everything from the intro, 20XX and the thing, and the music, and he's sitting up there and the hair's flowing and the music starts. It's like, oh my God, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm kind of the same way. As it's not like my, number one, oh my God, I can't wait to play it again. But it was definitely a game that made us learn the name Capcom at that point.
Yeah, for me, the Mega Man highs don't come until the mid to late 90s. As far as the games that I liked, like the X4 Legends and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. But it was definitely, I mean, he's the mascot of the company now, so.
Yeah. Allegedly,
yeah.
Because sometimes they be having that man in the broom closet on punishment.
Yeah.
Man. All
right. Where we at? So in 1987, Capcom developed an arcade fighting game that would build the foundation of a franchise that would revolutionize the genre Street Fighter.
Street Fighter.
Man.
Fighting streets.
There we go.
It is the first competitive fighting game produced by the company and the first installment in the Street Fighter series. Street Fighter was directed by Takashi Nishiyama, who conceived it by adapting the boss battles of his early beat-em-up game, Kung Fu Master, which was released in 1984.
Which everybody thought
one-on-one fighting game, and by drawing influence from popular Japanese show and manga.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion about the storyline of Street Fighter because they be trying to add that stuff that he did in the other game as part of
Kung
it.
Fu Master?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, this is where it started.
Now, people need to understand about the original Street Fighter. Okay, if those of you who are watching, you'll notice that the arcade machine has a joystick and has two pads. Okay, one pad is punch, one pad is kick. Now, you may be wondering, fighting games have like medium punch, light punch, heavy punch. Now, how would you perform those actions on Street Fighter? Well, let's break it down for you. Talk to him, Nolan.
Well, if you wanted to do a light punch, you would hit the punch pad lightly. If you wanted to do a medium punch, you would hit the punch button mediumly.
I was hoping you said mediumly too.
And if you wanted to do a heavy punch, you would hit it as hard as you could and sometimes not still get it.
Nope.
Because that was the dumbest idea
Nah, that's a fantastic idea.
No, did you ever play it?
No, hell
Okay,
no.
so
I think one of the greatest
I thought
one of the
game
greatest
started at
demos. It did. It did.
if you came up to one of those, there was a good 65 to 75% chance that it didn't even work because the buttons were broke.
Yeah, because
People are
Because
smashing.
people were hitting it. Yeah.
there is one of my favorite scenes in the movie Juice, where Samuel L. Jackson runs an arcade, right? And the characters from the movie, they go to the arcade a few times or whatever. It's like the teenage hangout spot.
Mm-hmm.
And Tupac, who's playing the character Bishop, who is like the villain of the story, is playing Street Fighter. And he is like wiggling the joystick back and forth and just tearing up the buttons. And like people were like, why is he playing the game like that? Like that was always, everybody thought it was a joke that he was playing the game so like aggressively.
Violently?
So violently. And it's like, no, he's actually playing Street Fighter the way it was designed to be played, like a maniac.
Yep.
Because how are you expecting me to do? Because it's not like when you watch the game in motion, you know, and if anybody can play the latest Capcom Anniversary Collection that had the original Street Fighter on there, you can use buttons now. You know, you're mapped out the buttons. But
Well, they eventually made a button version of it because arcade owners were like, hey, this stupid machine keeps going down because everybody's banging on it.
and you've made it to where they have to bang on it.
Yeah, so they eventually made a button version.
But the thing that was always funny is the game is moving like it moves slightly slower than Street Fighter 2. It's not necessarily like a groundbreaking fighting game necessarily.
No,
but the action is too fast for you to have to punch buttons literally in order to get stuff to go out.
Yeah.
So I couldn't imagine, because Ryu still has the Hadouken, he has the Shoryuken, he has the Tatsu. I could barely get them to pull off with a real controller.
Oh, no, nobody can. Nobody can. So this engine could not keep up with what he was trying to do.
Really?
That's one of the reasons the next board ended up coming up, because this game, the board that they built this game on could not do the commands. You're still talking about the 80s when most games just went left, right, up, and down.
Yeah.
You're talking about doing inputs that using diagonals now that the game isn't really made to pick up. It's like if you're going from down to left, it's like the timing of the inputs. Well, you go from down from here to here, you know, in whatever amount of time. By the time you get over to left, yeah, you want to go left or whatnot. But you're talking about something that's looking for a down, forward input, but the timing of it, the computer's picking up only the down and the forward because you went from here to here too fast.
Well, hey, look, also
All of a sudden, nothing's coming out.
At the end of the forward, right as you are pressing forward, I need you to press the punch button.
Yeah, exactly.
Together. I need you to time that.
And sometimes if you press them both at the same time, it picks it up as zero input.
Yep.
So,
I
yeah,
love
anybody who's every time I meet somebody who hadn't played Street Fighter and I have it on me, we sitting down and playing it, because you have to understand this is what arcade games were back then.
Oh, the input is not the number of times where nothing comes out and you get hit is crazy.
Yeah. But it was really the fact that the game was so far ahead of its time, what they were trying to do with it.
The game had voice acting in it.
It did.
As you go through each stage, all of the characters are talking to you before and after the fights. Like
Yeah.
there was some
It's
really,
the same voice, but yeah.
you know, it's a different person's face saying it.
Mm-hmm.
No, they were definitely trying to do something that had not been done.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely like the music and the setting and everything, it definitely had the feeling of like one of those old kung fu films where the guys, you know, his master was defeated and his school was burned down, and now he's got to go fight his way through Thailand and defeat the guys that defeated his master, and you know he's getting to the fights and the music and the action, and yeah, it's definitely had that feeling. It's
a guy that's so much taller than you and bigger than you.
Yeah, but
if you can get a Shoryuken to come out, though, let me tell you,
if you can get it to come out and it hits,
they take like a third of your health.
more than that.
Yeah, special moves take like you had 2 bars. Then you have the 2 bars, or was it 1 big bar? I thought
so. Like the health bars?
Yeah.
Well, the health bars, again, being the 80s and not really.
Oh, yeah.
They were both on top of each other.
Yeah, it was on top of each other.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a game of the 80s is what I always tell everybody before they go to places. Now, keep in mind, this is This is a game of the 80s. This is what games were, and there wasn't any other game really like this. I mean, besides,
I feel like the first of its kind
It was.
for the most part.
Karate Champ and Yi Are Kung Fu kind of came out, and they did their things. Particularly Karate Champ was a really good game, but Street Fighter was the one that
Karate Champ was doing the most within the space of what was already done.
Yeah,
because Karate Champ was essentially like Yi Are Kung Fu, but now you have two people and you could fight against each other.
Mm-hmm.
But the controls stayed the same. Like it was all within the realm of the controls that existed.
Yeah.
There was no like the most inputs. They were kind of situational. Like it was based on distance between you and the other character. So like if you're right on top of each other and you do kick, he does just a basic front kick. But if you're kind of a little bit away, then he does the high, roundhouse style. Yep. But this was you could do stuff whether they're close or far away, and
and you could do air attacks and
you could
crazy moves. You got guys with claws. You got guys throwing fireballs at you. You got
Birdie being
a huge white guy.
Yeah.
So what characters were in Street Fighter?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So it was Ryu,
white Ryu with blonde hair,
and red shoes.
Yeah, red shoes.
And technically Ken, who was basically Ryu, but just in red if somebody else played against you.
And blonde, it's white version. Yeah. It's just blonde hair, white dude version.
Yeah. All right. So Birdie, Eagle,
Kage. Not Kage. What's the ninja name?
Oh shoot.
Is a ninja.
Yeah.
Is a boxer.
Gen.
Yeah, Gen.
Mike, the boxer, who may or may not be.
You know who he is.
Mike Bison.
Because it'll say who's Mike Bison.
Yeah. So it depends on who you ask. Some folks at Capcom say yes, he is Balrog. And some folks say no, he was a different guy. They actually play with that in the story in Balrog's arcade ending in Street Fighter 1, I guess.
Yep.
Where he wakes up and it's like the whole thing. He wins the whole tournament, but everybody goes off with this guy named Mike, and he wins. He gets all the girls in the glory. He wakes up like it was a nightmare. That was actually pretty good. But either way, let's see, Adon, Gen. Most of these characters would end up showing up in games down the line.
The ninja?
No, he's never showed up in anything else. Geki.
Yeah, that's the ninja's name?
Yeah.
Geki, yeah, we go. Isn't he supposed to be connected to the Strider line and all of that stuff?
I think he might have something to do with that.
Yeah, like I don't think he's a part of the Bushin Ryu, but he's around those
But he's,
guys.
yeah. Then, of course, Sagat. I think that's it.
Yeah, it's 8.
Joe.
Yeah.
The other white American guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Joe hasn't shown up in anything else
No,
either.
Joe and
Geki.
He might be in the background or something here and there, but yeah.
Joe and Geki haven't been in anything. Eagle, they brought back in the Street Fighter Alpha 3 versions.
Well, he was in Capcom vs. SNK.
Yep. Yeah. And then Birdie, Adon, Gen all show up in Alpha.
In the Alpha games, yeah.
And then been another Street Fighter since then.
Yeah, Don was in 4, right?
Yep.
He was in 4 as well.
And Birdie was in 5?
Birdie was in 5.
Yeah, and Gen was in 4.
And Gen was in 4.
Gen was in Vanilla 4.
He was yeah.
Yeah. He was like one of the last people you unlock. I don't remember that. Was that crazy having to unlock people?
Vestige of the old times, yeah.
But
shit, we had to unlock 70 characters in fucking Smash.
Oh, well.
They're a fan of the old way of doing things.
Vestige of the old times.
Fuck that. That was a night. We had to do it on 6 different games.
Oh, I
in
know.
the span of a week.
We had to do it on was the Wii U game. I was helping out in a tournament. It was Emerald Coast Con. And we had to unlock it on like 12 Wii U's overnight in one night. So everybody was like assigned 3 different consoles. And we're all sitting there in the room playing.
Guess what ain't happening? All these characters?
Because you remember some of them you had to play that board game mode. So we're all trying to hurry up to get open up all the ones that we could like that. And then it was just playing the board game on 3 different screens at one time.
It's because of that game that kind of fucked us over for Smash Ultimate.
Because we thought that you had to do it on there as well.
Yeah.
Because that was the tradition.
Thank God there was a trick to that one. Yeah.
Well, you
we
don't
didn't
really
know about that the first night.
I'm like, hey man, what world did you get to? I'm over here in the Kirby land. I think I'm about to get DDD. Maybe, I don't know. He showed up.
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah.
But all right, Street Fighter it's a memorable game for what it laid the groundwork for.
Yes.
But we know who the main event is.
Oh yeah.
And we'll get to that.
Yeah,
We'll get to it.
we're about to get to it. So in the late 1980s, Capcom was on the verge of bankruptcy. When
Fun time.
Yeah, when the development of
Mahjong.
thank you,
Mhm.
Mahjong game called Mahjong Guken started.
Gakuin.
Whatever.
Just this is an important piece of the history.
Yeah, I know. It actually outsold Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yes.
It's the 8th highest grossing arcade game in 1989 in Japan and is credited to saving the company from financial crisis.
Yes. And that game was released by a company called Yuga, if I'm not mistaken, because Capcom couldn't put their name on it. Because by this point, Capcom is known as a company that makes games for everybody to play. And then they're releasing this porn game.
Oh, that's the game. Okay, the Mahjong where you get to see the
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Strip Mahjong.
So
Yeah.
So in Japan, this isn't actually so uncommon.
Yeah.
If you've played any ROM sets and you accidentally run across, what's this card game? Whoa, okay, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely a sub genre of gaming over there, even in the arcades.
Mm-hmm.
But usually they would put these machines in the back rooms and the back corners,
Like
away from where the kids
adult
were.
sections and
Yeah,
rental
yeah,
places.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a place where everybody's smoking back there.
Well, so now the Capcom guys gonna bring in this Mahjong game, and even though they don't have their name on it, arcade owners knew it was Capcom. Oh, this is gonna be one of the best looking games. Let's put it right out front. Kids coming in, a new Mahjong game. Cool. Let me sit down and play it. Oh, I'm playing against this girl. She's going to show me how to play it. Oh, okay. So, okay.
She's gonna show you a lot
she
more,
just
too.
took her shirt off. Well, that's weird. Okay, okay. So now she's topless. Okay, so now she's bent over, and I can do what?
Yeah.
That's how the game worked.
Yeah, spank it up,
So
baby.
not only did they get nude, if you did certain things in it, you could do things to them, and you could control these things that you were doing to them
Yeah.
that were animated,
Yeah.
more so than other games.
Yeah, turn it up.
This was Akiman's first game for Capcom.
Delicious.
It was the first artwork he'd ever did for Capcom. He was so into it, they even let him voice the main character in the game.
Oh my
Good God.
He loved it.
Deviant behavior out here.
This game was such a huge hit because again, even though Capcom didn't put their name on it, arcades still bought it because they knew it was Capcom. The Capcom guy was the one advertising it. It's something from Capcom. Bring that mess in. We're going to put it right up front. And a lot of them didn't, they left it out there for days before parents finally started. Why do you have this game out here where my kids can play? What? Wait, what are you talking about?
Oh, they
And you know what? And you know what? Some of them left it there because it was making money.
Of course.
Back then, if you were in the top 10 highest selling arcade games in Japan, you were making a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
So it being top 10 and outselling Ghouls and Ghosts, which is one of their big, name games and stuff. Yeah, that was a big deal. And the fact that it was a porn game, and it's something that they won't ever, don't never bring it up. They never talk about it anymore because, they were in a hard time and they had to do what they had to do.
Everybody got
I got to go out here and sell these bricks.
Hey, man.
Had to move some units real quick.
real quick. But yeah, I love that story. And that's the story a lot of folks do not know, and I love it.
Well, see, I've come across that game, and like when you hear people, like you watch videos of people have lists of like, I bet you didn't know about this game or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, if you download those ROM sets where you're just getting, game after game, and they're like, oh yeah, these are the the best arcade games ever or whatever, and it'll be like 500 games.
Yeah,
I know most of these. I've already played them. Let me click on something I haven't played. Oh, it's a Mahjong game, and like I don't even know how to play Mahjong for real, but I definitely played a bunch of
just like pairings and matches.
Yeah, it's kind of like domino, kind of.
It's kind of dominoes, it's kind of matching stuff, but
yeah.
But I've played them, and then like they have different themes to them. Some have like mystical themes and all that stuff, like you're exercising ghosts when you pair them up, and then some of them you pair them up, and then you get a pair.
Yeah, yeah. But I love it. It was it was like the most graphically impressive porn game at the time too, because
killing Leisure Shoot Larry out here. Magnum,
but it was
loudly.
like 87, right?
Yeah.
So it's still early days and everything. But man, I remember when I read the story.
People don't understand too that there's no ESRB. There's no like video
This is
games
before
aren't
ESRB.
regulated at all at this point. They're just
And again, in Japan, this was the norm. This wasn't something out of the ordinary. The only reason it made a stir is because everybody thought it was a normal Capcom game and they put it out front. And
because you didn't do your research.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't blame us. Can't blame us because y'all didn't do your research.
Not Capcom. Yuga.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But you're the Capcom guy. You're selling me a Capcom game, right?
Selling you a game.
I wish they would have just done their name backwards on it.
Oh my goodness.
What's that?
I'm trying to think. Mock Pack.
Mock Pack.
Yeah.
That's
that would have worked.
Hey, that's not. It's not. This is Mock Pack.
No, reverse it and then turn it upside down.
Well, at least it saved them.
Yes.
It did.
That way they can keep going. So
Thank
what did
goodness.
they do? What did they do next?
So the last game Yoshiki Okamoto directed was the game Willow. He would
Legendary.
oversee the development of Capcom's subsequent games as a producer and was responsible for the recruiting character designer Akira Yasuda, which is who you're talking about, right? No, you were talking
Yasuda
about
No.
Yasuda's
Oh,
next.
well,
yeah, Yasuda's no, somebody
yeah,
else. No,
it's a
sorry.
different guy. Yeah.
For Capcom. Okamoto and Yasuda developed some of Capcom's biggest hits, most notably the beat-em-up game Final Fight
Final Fight, baby.
and the fighting game Street Fighter 2.
Also known as Final Fight 89. Well, no. Final Fight was on
Final
the Street.
Fight was Street Fighter 89. That's
Yeah,
how
Street
it started.
Fighter 89.
So Street Fighter 2 is estimated to have grossed $10.6 billion as
Bees.
of 2017, making it the third highest grossing video game of all time after
Yeah.
Space Invaders and Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Let's talk about it.
I guess some more stuff about Street Fighter 2, then we can talk about it. Street Fighter 2 improved many of the concepts introduced in the first game, including the use of a special command-based moves and combo system, a 6-button configuration instead of 2, and a wider selection of playable characters, each with a unique fighting style. It prominently features a popular 2-player mode that inspired human-to-human competitive play, which prolonged the survival of the declining video game arcade business market by stimulating the business and driving the fighter genre. It inspired grassroots tournament events, which led into Evolution Championship Series, better known as EVO. Street Fighter 2 shifted the arcade competitive dynamic from achieving personal best high scores to head-to-head competition.
Who's the man?
On the home console side, more than 6.3 million SNES cartridges of Street Fighter 2 had been sold, making Capcom's best-selling single software game for the next 2 decades.
Yep.
Dog, that Street Fighter 2 cartridge with Chun-Li kicking that Blanca, and obviously he has murdered Ryu. Bro, I've never seen a cover art make their main character look like a chump.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
that was crazy to me. I was like, but he's the main guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Why he getting folded? But the number of houses that had that game when I was a kid was crazy. Like, I would go to somebody's house, and, obviously they got a Mario, because Mario probably came with their SNES. So they either got Mario World, they got Mario Kart, they got, Mario All-Stars. But then it would be that Street Fighter. Like, a lot of my relatives, because, you got to go in the summertime, you got to go to people's houses and all this. Like, man, I don't want to go to these folks' houses and be sitting here. All my cousins in the South were, like, at least, 5 years older than me. So I would hate going places because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to play nothing with anybody. Like, I'm going to be the tag-along cousin. But then I would see Street Fighter 2 in people's houses and be like, y'all can go do whatever it is y'all doing. Put this on 6 stars. Have me a good old time.
Shoot. Okay. So anybody, I'm trying not to go into the whole story, but anybody who's heard me talk about Street Fighter 2, you know the story. But again, folks don't understand how big this game was. It was the biggest thing in the world
It saved arcades.
when it came up. Yes.
Saved arcade. Bro, the shift, just think about it. The shift from like I said, personal best. Like I get the high score. Because remember, before that, putting your name in the high score thing was a big deal.
It's still a thing in this game.
It's still it's going to be in Capcom games until like what 2005.
Yeah, just about.
Like it was a thing. Putting your name on there, or if you were a jerk, ass.
Well, Capcom games you usually didn't do it.
Yeah.
If you tried to do like ASS or FCK or something like that, Cap.
It said Cap at number 1 because somebody tried to put in a cuss
But
word.
my name was Fred Carlson.
With a K.
Yes, I'm German.
Cap. Not only is I'm changing it to Cap, but that's Cap. But no, like seeing people standing there in line, bro, to play a game.
Oh no, yeah, it was crazy.
My quarter on the machine.
Put the quarter on the machine,
which we eventually had to learn because. So we used to play. We always kind of joke, but not really. We'd walk by the machine. I still remember the first day we walked into the arcade and something was up.
Oh yeah,
because there was literally 50 folks just huddled around. We couldn't even see it. So we're edging past them to go play, whatever games we used to play. And it was probably the second or third time we went to the arcade after the game had come out. And we go in and my brother finally kind of worked his way through the crowd to see what the hell everybody, because people are screaming, people are yelling, people are just going nuts. I'm not paying any mind to it. I'm playing, Operation Wolf. You talk about a classic game right there. So, and he comes back and is like, there's this weird game over here. It's like, what? It's like, I don't know, but this guy's like fighting a cop who he was talking about.
M. Bison.
I
mean, that scene alone, bro. And Bison shows up with a cape on, throws it off, and fights.
There was a guy who was trying to beat the game, and he was like one of the first folks to get to the end of the game. So nobody wanted to challenge it because everybody finally wanted to see the end of the game. So he was telling me there's some guy fighting a cop, and everybody's going nuts about it. So I go over there, and we're looking at the game, and we're like, so it's like so it's kind of like Final Fight, but it's just two of you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because life bars are very similar with the yellow going to the red.
Yeah. It was clearly a Capcom game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we watch. He ends up beating the game. We see the ending. We go back to whatever we're doing, but everybody's still going nuts. So finally, it dies down a little where there's not constantly 50 folks around the machine. It may be like 15 to 25. So we try to play it once, and we don't care for it. It's like, whatever. Christmas of 90, must have been 92. Was it 91?
What happened? What'd you get?
It was 92. Mom, for some reason, buys us this game on the SNES. We didn't ask for it. We imagine she walked into whatever store looking for video games. Hey, what's the big game? Guy just slammed it on the counter because
light work.
Again, folks don't understand how big this game was. It wasn't just the biggest game in the world. It was like the biggest thing in the world.
No, it was
all over the news for how violent it was. The folks are bleeding and throwing up, and it's like, oh, how disgusting. We're letting our kids play this. Go back and look for the I think it was
it was like a 60 Minutes thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, trust me.
Yeah.
I remember as a person who grew up in a household where my mom consistently let us know how much she hated video games. Anytime there was anything on about the evils of games.
Yeah.
She'd be like, "We're gonna sit down and watch this." I'm like, why?
Yeah, but by then it was like a full on, just iconic thing all over the world, and so everybody was getting interested in what's got folks so interested in these gaming thing, because all of a sudden it went past games. It was starting to bleed into like everything.
Well, it became it. This is the Street Fighter 2 is a part of when gaming becomes its own kind of subculture. It's kind of like hip hop becoming a thing or rock music becoming a thing.
Exactly.
It becomes something to where the parents don't understand what the kids are talking about anymore. because now the conversations they're talking about Ryu or Ryu.
Yeah.
And you know
The wholesome.
Yeah, the wholesome.
The holism. Excuse me. Yeah.
Zangief.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what that dude's name. USSR.
Yeah, that was the greatest thing.
USSSSSR.
Every time you go to the USSR.
But like the all of these things are starting to come up about, like, now all right, we kids used to play, right? Martial arts has always been a big thing, at least for our generation of kids. Like, you know, doing flips and kicks and all that stuff. Now kids are running around talking about Hadouken, oh, you can.
I was about to say, yeah.
That's when I spin kick at you. You gotta let me hit you with it. You ain't playing right. But like watching kids play and going from being like I'm Bruce Lee to being I'm Ryu,
yep.
and I'm throwing fireballs. Like it's everything is changing.
I know it's hard for folks to believe now, because now it's just kind of a, you know, it's
integrated in pop culture.
Yeah,
it's all pop culture.
But at the time, it shifted the way everybody thought about gaming as a whole. Video gaming became something more, because
a little bit less nerdy.
Yeah, because all of a sudden it was like you're competing. You're not just playing, you know, one of those stupid shooting games where you're shooting spaceships and stuff like that. You're competing with somebody else.
Yeah, fighting.
Which brings in a whole different class of folks who usually wouldn't play a video game.
Competition breeds.
But all of a sudden it's like, well, I can be better than this guy at this though. Oh, I learned these moves. Hey, this is I'm the best at this. No, I'm the best at this. And then you start getting folks coming in, and you know when, you know, somebody's already there and you see somebody coming in the arcade, everybody's like, oh, because you know for the next hour you're about to watch those two just go at it,
bro. The it's like I said with hip hop, where you started having breakdance crews. Now you got crews on games.
Yep.
And it's like, oh yeah, them dudes is good at this game. And like, it might be, well, it's kind of going past Street Fighter, but then it started to be all these different other games. But it was like, yo, he's the best person with Ken.
What's that anime? It came out over the last like 5 years, maybe a couple of years. But it basically is about
High School Girl.
Oh, High School Girl.
Dude,
I still hadn't seen it.
You don't know where, like,
somebody need to watch it.
It's a love letter to Japanese arcades, man. Mm-hmm. You seeing this kid's like life as he gets older and older or whatever, and he's got the girl and they got the friendship relationship kind of thing, but them talk like, because he does every time a new game comes out, you know, he does the breakdown of this is this version and this is what it changed compared to this version, and like talking about like techniques in Street Fighter. He was like, I'm gonna have to use the turtle technique. And so now he's doing the crouch down with Guile, and like he's just, you don't know if I'm throwing a sonic boom or a flash kick. Mm-hmm. Like learning that thing was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I recommend that anybody that is remotely interested in Street Fighter at all, or want to know some of the history, that anime paints a pretty big picture of how it was back then.
And it gives you that Japanese perspective on it too. Yeah. Because it's showing you
it's a little bit different than our perspective. Yeah.
But yeah,
revolutionary. It's Street Fighter 2, man. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
There are a few video game brands that are outside of just video games.
Yeah.
Street Fighter.
Yeah. It
Mortal
became,
Kombat, Mario. Like it got that level fast.
Yeah. Quick. Like within a year.
Which is crazy, because the first Street Fighter, like, it was good at the time, but it wasn't anything like
the first Street Fighter. It wasn't good. It wasn't good back then either.
It was still it was something different.
It was something different, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and it just the second one, like I said
second
earlier,
one,
it's the CPS board.
It didn't even occur to me that Street Fighter 2 was a sequel to that game for years.
Oh,
because we played the original, and this game was just so vastly different and better that it didn't even occur to us. Wait, this is the guy with the red hair that was sometimes through the fireball.
The red head, which is why in Alpha he has like reddish hair, because they were like, you know, it's that guy. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
No.
They're making it a little more brownish, kind of auburn. Yeah.
No, but, dude, like just the characters. Like, we hadn't had games where a roster of characters were that memorable.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
You got Mario. You got Green Mario. You got Bowser and the Princess.
Basically.
Mario 2 comes out, they like, oh no, it's Toad and Luigi and them. It's like, okay. But you know, you got a handful. You got Link, you got Zelda, Ganondorf. You have Samus and Ridley,
Kraid.
Dog, you have
Mother brain.
Ryu, Ken, E Honda, Guile, Chun-Li, Sagat, Dawson, Blanca, E Honda, unfortunately.
Well,
you know, we already had a Japanese guy. We didn't need two Japanese players. Ryu's a wanderer, which also too, again, we still have this martial arts connection to it, to where like the story mode of Street Fighter is basically like Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. And all of that stuff is still popular. Like TMNT is still popping. Like martial arts with kids.
Oh, TMNT, yeah, it's huge. At the time.
Like martial arts is always going to be popular.
Yeah. Kind of comes and goes in waves.
It comes, yeah.
But I mean, it's hidden behind different things.
Yeah.
Like you had TMNT, you had Street Fighter, you have
The Matrix.
Oh yeah,
Matrix, Power Rangers.
Yeah, oh yeah, like
Power Rangers. Yeah,
But this game, like, just it was the one that pushed it back into the, because you had like action movies back then. You know, you got Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal, I guess. But it was like it was coming.
I mean, those were back then. That Steven Seagal was.
I know he was.
He was at the top.
He was up there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And the sea still goes hard.
But I always try
the man sold a shitload of movies when he was only in the movie for 10 minutes.
Talking about executive decision?
Executive decision.
Technically, he's in the movie for 45 minutes of screen time.
Is he?
Technically. But the theatrical release cut it down even more.
Yeah.
I think he ended up being like, I think it was like 26 or something like that. But, you know, they got this. Anyway.
That's a story for another time.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal.
We're going to Time Splitters episode. Steven Seagal. You know what I'm going to tell you guys? You guys got 5 minutes to get out of here. Leave these people alone. Anywho,
Street Fighter 2 is just it's so important to gaming because like you said, the arcade was on the, because you know nothing really had changed.
No,
and
it was just a bunch of like 1942 type clones.
Yeah, you were either playing a shooter or
beat 'em up.
Or like a
like early beat 'em ups too.
Platformer, yeah, because Final Fight when it came out. Nothing like it.
Nope.
Nothing. It was so fun.
So much. It was so much.
I want to be the big guy. Oh, I just did a pile driver. Oh, this is it.
You can jump with him.
You can jump. I can grab him, and then I jump. And if I hit attack, he turns him over and does a pile driver. I am done. This is the greatest game ever.
Oh, look, there's another big guy. Oh, he clotheslined me one time. My life went all the way down. I forgot. I am in the arcade, so it's got to get these quarters off.
Oh, I got infinites. So if I do punch, punch, turn around, punch, punch, turn around, punch, punch, turn around, punch, punch, turn around, punch, punch, turn around. Easy. And I love how they integrated that into him in Alpha 3. If his level 3 super move, I think he does the punch, punch, turn, punch, punch, turn, punch, punch, turn. And I always wonder how many folks see that and wonder, why is he doing this dance or something like that? No, that's from Final Fight anyway. But yeah, it was just like 3 completely different types of characters, and it's just, you just beating up folks and getting killed by a guy that's fighting you with swords. That ain't fair. Coming out of the bar, and then the wrestler guy comes and grabs you by the neck and pulls you into the chain ring, and you're fighting like the whole family of them. Well, Final Fight was so good.
This is something that ties into all of that. When you talked about what Street Fighter was trying to do, and then what Street Fighter 2 does, that's the CPS 1 board.
Yeah.
So when they switch to that board, all of a sudden they can do all of these things with all of these games. You get Captain Commando, you get Final Fight, you get the first thing that Jin's in would blow to you.
Oh well, the first one was
that CPS 2 at the
Cyber Warriors, which was the side-scrolling
beat 'em up
game, and then eventually turned into Cyberbots.
But like all of a sudden, Capcom
game
has this like engine basically that they're putting out all of these games that have one that has the Capcom look to it, right? Like the Capcom. Play Knights of the Round, that's a Capcom game. You play the Shadows of Mysteria, that's like it looks like a Capcom game, but it's all based on them making that CPS 1 board. All of these games now fall in the line of being some of the best looking games, but then some of the best playing games. Capcom
sounding too.
Oh my goodness, the soundtrack right now in my phone is the Street Fighter 2 soundtrack. Like all of these levels are in my phone because all of them were just, oh my goodness. When
Bangers.
They were bangers, bro. And then when you said about getting the home version, so
Yeah.
you get the home version, now you could do all of this at home. And yes, it is not 100% true to the arcade. But buddy, we starting to get real close.
Got real close.
And then 2 Turbo comes out, and that's But we digress. This is definitely gonna be a 2-parter, maybe 3-parter. I don't know.
So,
All right. So in 1990, Capcom entered the bowling industry with Bowlingo.
Bowlingo.
It was a coin-operated, electromechanical, fully automated mini 10-pin bowling installation. It was smaller than a standard bowling alley, designed to be smaller and cheaper for amusement arcades. Bowlingo drew significant earnings in North America upon its release in 1990. So this is also what helped Capcom out of its bankruptcy.
Starting to get a string of hits
Porn
here.
and bowling.
I mean, if somebody's gonna get you right, you know what I'm saying? What's more American than porn and bowling?
I mean, it's a Japanese company, but yeah.
But they get it. They get their audience, even though we didn't get the mahjong. They should have made a porn solitaire game. They would have did gangbusters.
I mean, who says that they didn't?
Exactly.
They might have learned to outsource it to somebody else and just get the money in the back
Or
end.
when
Mock Pop.
One of them video poker machines.
But the bowling thing was huge because the alleys at the time, were big because they had arcades and discos and, everybody's playing, everybody's trying to bowl. If the alley was full, you could send folks over to that. It's like, well, hey, we have this machine over here where you can also bowl, and you could get I think it allowed up to 4 folks per machine. And, it was basically the same thing as bowling.
Like skee ball.
Yeah.
Skee ball and bowling.
Yeah.
Pretty much, and folks loved it just as much. It's like, hey, I only got to pay, whatever for it. Besides, or you do it while you're waiting for a lane to open or something like that. So yeah, it was a big hit for them too.
Things are starting to line up for Capcom.
Yes, so they got the biggest game in the world and Bowlingo.
So Capcom has been noted as the last major publisher to be committed to the 2D games.
Yeah.
Though it was not entirely by choice, the company's commitment to the Super Nintendo as its platform of choice caused them to lag behind leading publishers in developing 3D-capable arcade boards. Even though the 2D animated cartoon-style graphics seen in games such as Darkstalkers, Night Warriors, and X-Men Children of Adam proved to be popular, which led Capcom into adopting them as a significant style and use them in more games.
Yeah, that was definitely their thing at the time.
Yeah, they went
when
into
X-Men came
CPS2.
out.
That CPS2 board was clean, buddy.
I remember the first time walking in an arcade and seeing X-Men, and not only did they get the voice actors from the show, which was the best thing that they could have done, because when we walked into the putt-putt, we heard that it was at putt-putt down here, and
Arcades are starting to get a little lax now too.
what do you mean?
Like late. Instead of it, how you Street Fighter 2 was pretty much at any arcade looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
X-Men, like we started getting to the pre-crossover games. Not every arcade is starting to be equal. You're not guaranteed to have.
Oh well, yeah.
You're not guaranteed to have the same amenities at every arcade now.
Yeah. But we walked into putt-putt and we were looking around and we couldn't see it, which is hilarious because it turned out it was right next to the front door. So we walked in. We couldn't see it, but as we got to the middle of the main place, we could hear Cyclops' voice. So we're like,
Optic Blast.
yeah. It's like, it's here. Where
Optic
is
Blast.
it? We're looking around like crazy. We're going to every nook and cranny.
Gene Splice.
And so we finally go to walk out the front door because we couldn't find it. We figured maybe they're playing like an episode of X-Men or something over the loudspeaker, but we couldn't find it. We're walking out the front door, and I happen to look to my right, and there it is, right at the front door. But either way, just everything about that game was just perfect. Now the gameplay didn't turn out to be, but at the time,
It was
the craziest game, because that game and the first Stalkers game, I always say was kind of the beginning of the anime type play style of fighting games.
Yeah, the crossover, wacky, over the top, 40 hit combo.
Yeah, because they were, because SF2 was still, a
a 5-hit combo. You cheating?
Well, you kind of were, because all that was an accident, but yeah, those were like the first games that actually started to count the hits in a combos were built into it. Certain characters could jump like super high and could even dash in the air, and you could do special moves in the air. And
couldn't you block in the air on Darkstalkers?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to say it was the first one that had air block.
I think that was the first one that had that. Yeah, and so it was just so different. Like, you know, and it kind of started to split folks off. Now you had, you know, guys like me who just played anything that was a fighting game.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm in the same camp.
But yeah, those two games was like really like opened my eyes to what fighting games could turn into.
So I'm glad you brought up the split between like, and it wasn't necessarily a generational divide either. It was just you had these people who all of a sudden I remember this happening like in my household. So like me and my cousins and brothers and all of that during the summer. Mm-hmm. And this is what, like 96, 90, well, for us it probably was 95, 96.
Yeah, like 94, 5, 6, yeah, somewhere around there.
So
midnight.
We had people who were like, I like Street Fighter, like Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Mm-hmm. And we like, that's cool, but are you seeing what Wolverine just did? And they're like, yeah, it's too much going on.
Yep.
And we would have people like,
that was exactly it.
Would just be like, a part of our household would be, it's too much going on. We don't like that type of game. We wanted to just be more back to, you know, keep it simple. You know, what's wrong with a jump kick and sweep?
Yeah, all of a sudden, exactly. And now all of a sudden I got to deal with this Frankenstein guy that just command grabbed me with his butt. I don't understand what's going on anymore.
Characters across the screen going. It's like, what am I supposed to do with Cyclops shooting the beam that's half the screen?
Yeah,
it's like, don't get hit.
Behold, optic blast.
He put the X up for you because you know he charging the good. I'm about to
just I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and so this is the thing where. And I think this kind of helped Mortal Kombat a little bit longer because for some reason people seemed to be okay with the way Mortal Kombat was progressing. Like everybody who liked Mortal Kombat was like, yeah, Mortal Kombat 3 is good. But when Street Fighter started to go into the X-Men or what became like the Marvel crossover series, people started to kind of fall back, which Darkstalkers suffered the same thing because you didn't get every Capcom fan to like Darkstalkers. Yeah. There was too much going on for them.
It was definitely particular folks, because I was one of the few folks that played those games.
Man, them games was incredible. I don't care what nobody.
Darkstalkers 2 was one of my favorite games of all time in the arcade. I played that game so much. But yeah, X-Men, I remember the first day. So we find the game, we're playing it for like 2 hours, and we're like, can you imagine if they put the Street Fighter characters in this game? And we're like, yeah, but it'd be weird because they aren't, you know, they aren't nuts like this. Like Ryu would have to have a fireball, but it'd have to be like a beam or something.
Yeah, wouldn't it though? Wouldn't he have to have a beam fireball to go against that?
Skip ahead a couple years.
I'm about to get to that.
All right, go ahead and do your thing.
All right, so in 1996, X-Men vs. Street Fighter was the first game developed in the Marvel vs. Capcom series. The series originated as a coin-operated arcade game, though later releases would specifically developed for home consoles, handhelds, and personal computers.
Which is a whole different story too. So
that game,
X-Men versus Street Fighter, that was at QZar down here, was the only place to play it. Again, we heard from the grapevine that QZar had X-Men versus Street Fighter. So it wasn't even me and my brother. It was me and this guy in my science class. This was 11th grade. Nerds. 10th or 11th grade, we skipped class. We just left after lunch because we were like, we talked about it for weeks because we had read about it, but we didn't know if we were going to get it down here.
Oh, the magazines used to have you salivating out here. Seeing that?
Yeah. He told us, he told us, hey, somebody said that they have it over QZar. I don't even remember what my brother was doing, but me and him were like, let's go. We jumped in his truck after lunch and we went to QZar because we knew it was going to open after lunchtime.
Nerds, skipping class to go play games.
We straight skipped class. I walk in the arcade and there it is. And sure enough, one of the first things I see, Ryu throws the super fireball, and I was like, we called it.
Yeah.
We called it.
The number, like, again, this is where the conversations became stuff that my mom would be like, you guys are saying gibberish. Because we're home, right? And we outside, we're playing and stuff, and we're like, everybody was saying, what if they do X-Men game? What if they do Street Fighter like X-Men? Or what if they put them together? And it's like, okay, so now we got a fantasy book it, and it's like, yeah. So now Ken remember he did the uppercut and he had the fire on his hands, but now fire's going to surround his whole body. Like everybody is saying what should happen, and then you get the game and they doing all the stuff you saying.
They're basically doing everything that everybody thought was going to happen.
This is an incredible time, man. This is like, for me, this is where I'm like, all right, this video game thing, this is it. I got to do something. I got to be into this all the time. There's no way I'm getting out of this game. This game, pretty much Capcom is the reason I get a PlayStation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because you couldn't, like, again, I can't get money to go to the arcades like that. So
yeah,
I'm looking at the 64. You know what I'm not seeing? Street Fighter.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but what do they got else? Fighter's Destiny.
Hey, they had Mace, the Dark Age.
Biofreaks.
Well, Biofreaks is on both consoles.
That's true, but the N64 version was.
Oh yeah, because that PlayStation was getting cooked trying to. You can hear it loaded. It was not ready for that. But these games are the reason I have a PlayStation. Like I go to Capcom has been a big influence on my personal choice to pick games. Also, they didn't have Final Fantasy on 64 was killing me. Because this is my genre. It's fighting games,
fighting
RPGs.
games and RPGs. Yeah,
and it's like I can't get a 64.
Yeah, if you were into fighting games and RPGs, you kind of had to get a PlayStation, but you might have been better off getting a Saturn.
Yeah, but where am I going to find a Sega Saturn?
See, we had a friend that had a Saturn.
Yeah,
and he
Sons of bitch.
he got the expansion thing because you had to have it in order to play these games to make it like the arcade. Because if you played the PlayStation version of X-Men versus Street Fighter,
listen, we don't talk about that. Listen, you can switch characters on the PlayStation, okay? But here's what you got to do: you pick a character, and I pick a character, and that's the team, and we got to go against each other. Because the PlayStation can't handle 4 different sprites.
No.
So
couldn't keep them all in RAM.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it was interesting, though. Like, MVC was interesting on the PS1 because it kind of turned it into a completely different game since you basically only had one character.
Yeah. It was like one character and the assist.
But it played so different. So you could do all kinds of craziness on that game that you couldn't do in the original game.
There's a lot of infinites or kill combos on the PlayStation version.
Because they have to allow you to do extra stuff because you couldn't do the tag stuff. But yeah, that was just like a time. It was almost unthinkable.
It really was
that they would even do the crossover thing because it was like, the X-Men was so good, and then my favorite fighting game of all time came out, and that game was just perfect.
What game?
Marvel Superheroes.
That was
that game was perfect.
So
it still is.
my oldest brother Ron, we were in Michigan at the time. Very dark time in young Darius's life. Okay, a lot of just trash environment, just lack of games. I had my SNES, and I think I had like 3 games, and I had already beaten all of them to death. And my brother gets a PlayStation. Now I don't know how he got the money or means to get a PlayStation because, that wasn't something that we had a lot of access to during this time. But he was living a different lifestyle. So, like, his room was off limits for the most part because, he's the older brother and all of that. And so he's like, Darius, come here. And I'm like, I don't want to go to the store for you. He had a corner store like next door, and he'd make me go get him something and not give me change or anything. So I'm like, I really don't want to go to the store right now. So he's like, come in here. So I come in, and he's doing this like lord it over me a little bit, so the TV's turned so I can't really see it. And he's like, but I'm hearing, solar. What is it? What's the Iron Man's thing? So Unibeam. So I'm hearing like Unibeam, and I'm hearing Berserker Barrage. I'm like, I know that one. That's Wolverine. I'm like, what you got over there? He's like, hold on, you want to play something? I'm like, of course I want to play something. Give it to me. And he's like, here you go. And I'm playing, and I'm like, yo, what is this? Like, I'm seeing Spider-Man, because Spider-Man was X-Men didn't have Spider-Man in there.
Right.
It was just X-Men. Now all of a sudden, we got Iron Man, we got Spider-Man, we got the Incredible Hulk, Captain America. Like, what is going on here? And then I started to see Blackheart talking about Thunder and all of this, and I was just, again, this is the next level.
Yeah,
this is incredible. And Marvel Superheroes is a very underrated, not talked about entry into the series.
Not by me,
but Like the gym usage where each of the gyms had their own little effects to them. You know, hit them with the space gym, and all of a sudden,
which if at the time, if you were a big comic book fan, you knew what that wall was because it had happened not that long ago. So it was it changed the way I played fighting games as a whole. Because
is that when you chose big ass characters?
Yes, that's what started it.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. On that Marvel superheroes, the Space Gym with the Hulk is pretty much I'm gonna win now, because that's a super armor one, right? Isn't it space?
Yeah.
Like,
well, with Juggernaut, he took nothing hurt him
because you could power him up after doing it. You do because he had the.
Well, no, if he just activated the Space Gym, nothing hurt besides the throw.
Okay,
which is a tip for anybody.
Throws hurt a lot in that game.
But he could plow through anything and not take any chip or nothing like that. Everybody else got super armor.
Yeah,
he just didn't. Nothing hurt him. Yeah, he already has super armor, so nothing hurt him at all. That's and funny. I would love watching folks trying to do stuff as like head crush. Or watch him start it up and he's getting hit and nothing's hurting him. It's like, oh, this head crush is coming. Keep on hitting buttons. Keep on go ahead. Head crush.
That's funny.
But yeah, that game just changed everything for me. Like I said, I changed the type of character I played with. I only wanted to play games like that. Now, don't get it twisted. Street Fighter was still a thing, but.
Well, I mean, we had what for me it started to feel like was these games were, I won't say it were better. Like Alpha 1 wasn't bad. Alpha 1 was pretty fun.
Yeah,
it was clearly the next entry in the series, but it wasn't giving me what these games were giving me. They were giving me something else. The presentation, the colors, the moves, like it was giving me something else.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing like it, which is said a lot about Capcom games. They were innovating a lot of this stuff. They created the whole fighting game genre, and then they just continue to lead and innovate in it as they went on.
So I know, and we didn't mention this in the timeline, but they sued Data East in like '93.
Fighter's History.
So Fighter's History was literally a copy of Street Fighter.
I mean, okay, so almost every fighting game was.
Yeah. True. But this one took it to the next level.
They were like, they didn't care.
You gonna get this? Look, you can't afford Street Fighter, but you can afford Fighter's History. Okay, we don't got Zangief. We don't got a Russian. We got a German, and he literally says German when he does the German suplex. Come on now, that's cool. We don't have Ken. We got Ray. Ray doesn't do a Hadouken. He does a Ray Tornado.
Yeah.
Okay. He does the Ray kick. He doesn't do a Tatsu. We got a Asian guy who's supposed to be Ryu, but come on, you know what this is, all right? Yeah. We got a chick who does karate stuff. Okay, we got an American Commando dude. What do you want? It's the same game.
It's the same thing.
And Capcom was like, hey,
it is the same game.
You guys are clearly stealing from us, and they took him to trial, and they was like, so you saying, Your Honor, you're saying that Capcom owns fighting games?
Well, don't forget, Capcom didn't just sue them because it was too close to Street Fighter. They specifically sued them over the command inputs.
Because they were exactly the same as Street Fighter.
If you go back and play old SNK games,
have fun pulling off a move.
Oh, forward to back to down back to forward to up forward. Like, what is
you know what you get for all of that? Power wave.
Casting spells over there.
You literally get. He didn't even have his power wave didn't even go across the screen. It was just right in front of him. That's it. You want to do a rising tackle? Go do some math homework, because that's how you're gonna get that rising tackle.
All these small companies that were trying to make fighting games,
and even Mortal Kombat,
because nobody was making a fighting game thinking they were going to be the next Street Fighter. They were making fighting games for folks to play while you were waiting to play Street Fighter. But these are small companies.
Well, I mean, like,
nobody was trying to get sued.
You look at Mortal Kombat. They even talk about it if you watch any of their development stuff. We wanted to make sure that we didn't do anything that was already done command-wise, so they had to stick with the back forwards and backs and forwards and down. Like the only thing they have is down forward, and they
down to forward.
Well, they don't do it's not a quarter circle. It's just literally you press down, then you press forward in the button.
Yep. Yeah, but nobody wanted to get sued by Capcom because, Capcom at this point, they're
Big
the
boys.
company. They're the company in the whole world. Nobody wanted to get sued by them except These guys.
They said, whatever, what y'all gonna do? Sue us? They sued them, and they were like, they can't own inputs.
Yeah, exactly. That was the exact argument. You can't copyright a direction on a stick.
Because they were like, then that means that nobody else can have a game where somebody runs and jumps like Mario.
Yeah.
And the courts was like,
the courts.
dang, they cooking.
Yeah, you know what? You're right.
This brother spitting over here. Sorry, Capcom.
Hey, Capcom lost.
And they'll never bring it up.
KOF started coming out in quarter circles all day.
play Fatal Fury 3 special. You like, this is real Street Fighter like. Because before Fatal Fury, you had to jump between planes.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they was like,
kind of their thing.
Nah, we're doing 2D fighting now.
Yep.
Just like Street Fighter.
Everybody can do it just like Street Fighter now. Thank God.
So, Street Fighter put in super meters. That's crazy. We got a meter right here.
Yeah, we've had that a while ago, but nobody was gonna, it's like, hey, it was all fair game at that point, right?
Good luck doing a super move on Art of Fighting. First of all, you got to build up the meter. They got to let you build up the meter. Okay,
and you have to complete the
mini game.
Yeah,
you had to earn your super move.
You had to earn the super move.
Because Mortal Kombat had the brick break. Because Pit Fighter had the brick break.
Yep.
And that was the only thing about Pit Fighter that was even decent. But then Art of Fighting had the brick break, and then if you do it, then you get to go and
no, you had to actually do the move 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you only had like 25 counts of the timer to do it. So you go forward to back down to down to down forward to forward and punch. Go.
I got one out in 25 seconds.
Yep. You might have one out in 25 seconds. Because let me tell you, Art of Fighting 1 was awful.
Yes, it was.
It was an awful game. I love it though, because that was one of the games I would play when I couldn't get on Street Fighter 2. I would play. It was Art of Fighting, Fatal Fury, and something else. I forgot what the third game was, but they were all right in the same spot. Samurai Showdown wasn't out yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Samurai Showdown's what, like 93, 94?
93. I want to say 93. Yeah. At least that's probably when we started playing it. And then 93, 94 when 2 came out. And just a little aside here, Samurai Showdown 2 is really the only fighting game to ever come out that folks actually put up next to
Street Fighter 2.
Street Fighter 2, because even when the first game came out, it was so different than what everybody else was doing, because everybody had swords, and when you blocked, the little sparks came off, and you had the little the sword, the clashing thing, that it turned out that it didn't matter what button you hit because nobody programmed it into the game. I freaking knew it my whole life.
What you mean it's not programmed?
Like, in the first game, they accidentally left that part out.
Oh, it just did the animation.
So when it's telling you to hit the button.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, because they always do the same animation. They go forward, back, forward,
and we were really good at hitting the button fast. Anybody who ever fought us in anything where you had to hit buttons fast, we learned how to either do it like that or like this, and we would always beat anybody at that. So when we would lose in Sam Show 1, when we would lose this, it's like, this game is cheating. It's freaking cheating. What, three years ago, the guy finally came clean. It's like, so yeah, when we compiled the game, I left that part of I left it out, and so whenever the sword
it was just random. Then
it was random.
Okay, because I just always knew no matter who's pressing what, it always did the same animation, which
the computer
in theory
would pick. Yeah, so that part's supposed to be the same.
Oh, okay.
You weren't supposed to know who's going to win it until.
Well, see, I was used to
away.
Wrestle War, where you could see who was winning the button mashing because the other person would go down on their knees, and then you'd be like, I'm finna throw you. Yep. Yeah, DDT time, baby.
But I read that article on Kotaku, I think, and I was yelling at the top of my lungs, I knew it! I knew it! I knew it all these years! I freaking knew it!
You're never get them wins back, Nola. You lost your weapon. The guy cut you real bad. The
game was cheating the whole time. Nah. Even the home console games, they didn't put it in those either. They was like, well, I mean, we already did it in the arcade game. We'll just do it here too.
Well, the computer used to pick itself to win that all the time too.
Not all the time, but
shoot,
yeah,
go against a Muska and be thinking you finna win a clash.
That's true.
You're gonna lose your weapon. He gonna hit you 3 times with the ball, and then you're gonna be dazed, and then he gonna kill you. But anyway,
but just as a little fighting game history thing, like Sam Show 2, folks. Again, if you weren't there, you you don't realize Sam Show 2 was a really, 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 really important game because it was the only fighting game at the time that folks held up next to it. It's like you go back because it came out around the time that Champion Edition, I think, came out. And the reviews for Sam Show 2 came out, and it was like better. And again, if that meant that Sam Show was the best game in the world for like a minute.
I mean, it didn't matter to people because they like Street Fighter more. But no, I'm always going to be on the side of Samurai Showdown as far as never getting its just due for being a incredible series.
Yeah.
But yeah, two, I think 2, 4, and I guess just the last one that came out were probably some of the best ones.
Yep. It's the highest selling game ever. The last one.
Yeah.
So, okay. Back to Capcom.
Oh.
Your turn. You let us ramble.
Yeah, you let us go.
Okay, so while the beat 'em up and fighting game genre had put Capcom on the global gaming map, the company remained focused on developing new game franchises. The development of the next generation video console systems, especially the launch of the Sony PlayStation in the mid-1990s, provided the company with the technological base to develop an entirely new type of game. Resident Evil, known in Japan as Biohazard, established a new survival horror genre and quickly gave the company a new international success.
Yes.
In late 1994, marketing executives were setting up to release Biohazard in the United States. It was pointed out that securing the rights to the name Biohazard would be very difficult, as a DOS game had been registered under the same name, as well as a New York hardcore
rock
punk band called Biohazard. A contest was held among the company personnel to choose a new name. The competition turned up Resident Evil, the name under which it was released in the West.
That damn dog.
The first Resident Evil was created by Shinji Mikami and Toko. Whatever. What is it?
Mikami.
That's what I said.
You said Mikami.
I said Mikami.
Okay. I heard Mikami.
I heard Mikami.
Okay.
And Tokaru Fujiwara, and released for the PlayStation in 1996. It is credited for defining the survival horror genre and returning zombies to popular culture.
Yes.
Resident Evil created a new genre of games. The genre would be known as survival horror.
Man, that first Resident Evil. First of all, I appreciated the campiness of the original one. There we go. Take it all down. No one told you to screw it in.
I tell you every week.
But I just, like, games weren't scary.
True.
Games were they
really couldn't be.
Yeah, like games weren't scary, right? They were fantasy, ghouls and ghosts, like even Capcom's version into the horror, Castlevania, like all those games, they had scary things in them, but they weren't necessarily something you were scared of. Brother, I was scared of Resident Evil.
Resident Evil, yeah. That was now Resident Evil technically wasn't the first survival horror game. It's the one that put it on the map. Just like Street Fighter 2 wasn't, even the original Street Fighter wasn't the first fighting game. It was the one that put it on the map.
It took Capcom to do it.
Basically, yeah. Because Alone in the Dark, we did have a friend that played that showed us that game years before this game came out. And I remember being creeped out by it. And it's very close to this. I don't know if anybody from Capcom ever played Alone in the Dark or saw it.
They definitely were aware.
But it was similar to it in a lot of ways, but this one was way better.
That was the thing, is like Resident Evil, especially at the time, even with the tank controls and the limitations of everything, it was still like just one of the better games that came out. It was like, there's nothing like it.
Again, I was about to say the same thing, just like you say about a lot of Capcom games. There was nothing else like it.
Listen, if we can't make anything else clear about what we're talking about with Capcom, and why we chose Capcom for one, is they had this ability to, even if they're not the first person in this genre, they become the standard bearers for the genre.
Yep.
Like when they get into something, when Capcom's at its best, when they get into a genre, they take it to heights it's never been at, and they make it to where if you want to compete in this space, you have to bring your games up to our height.
Yep.
Otherwise, you will be the people who made the game that's kind of like our game. Like Silent Hill. Like, first of all, if I'm Konami, I might hate Capcom. I don't want to be in your shadow for stuff. We make good games over here.
Yeah.
We've made Metal Gear Solid, or at least we gave the guy the money to make Metal Gear Solid. Like, but there's always, except for Metal Gear Solid, or the Metal Gear franchise, a lot of their games are not fair to them, but to the general public, their games are seen as not the Capcom game. Silent Hill is not like Resident Evil. But for the average person who looks at games, it's the not Resident Evil game.
Yep.
In fact, in some cases, Silent Hill has creeped me out more than Resident Evil.
Oh yeah, it was actually scary.
Yeah, but it ain't Resident Evil.
But it's not Resident Evil.
And the thing that Capcom does that they don't always get credit for is they have the ability to make characters who become names.
Yeah, I don't know anybody in Silent Hill.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the dude's name is just James. One of them. And
I've got Pyramid Head.
Yeah,
Pyramid Head kind of became the
Pyramid Head became a thing because people made Pyramid Head the thing.
Yeah,
you play a Capcom game, they gonna tell you who the main characters are, and by the time you start playing the game for a decent amount of time, you recognize that they've made a character that has like a certain level of depth to it.
Yep.
Like
what the personality and
you care about them.
What like you look back at Street Fighter, for example.
Again, yeah.
They made a game where all of this personality flows, even with the limitations.
Well, I mean, even in that same vein, they made a Street Fighter game that didn't have any of the 8 original characters, and what happened with that? It had a rough fucking start.
It's like look at Mega Man. You can't really emote in the first like 7 Mega Man games. There's no way to really show anything, right? They just give you some text and stuff like that. But as you play with the characters, Mega Man became an icon in the late 80s. Like, it just, that's just what Capcom can do. Resident Evil character, every time they make a main character in a Resident Evil game, they become this thing now.
Yep.
Except for Ethan, but that's just because, he's a pile of fungus or something.
He's kind of.
I mean, he is. He was a good representation for the regular person playing. Like, if you were put into a Resident Evil situation.
Well, yeah, because he was. I mean, yeah, because really he was the first one where you're seeing out of his eyes, so you don't really see nothing but his hands.
Yep.
Which is when folks make fun of 7, but especially 8. Like, why do they keep messing with this dude's hands? Because it's the only part of him you can see.
Yeah, you have to emote all through the hands.
Yeah.
So you want to show damage, you got to lose fingers.
You got to lose fingers. Yeah.
Wrap his hand up, and 2 seconds later, the fingers
are back. Yep. So that's why. But
like, you think about all the entries in the Resident Evil. First game, you got Jill and Chris, who are the main characters who you decide to play, which is another thing that only a few games had done, having multiple main characters to play. You choose paths and stuff. RPGs had done stuff like that.
Yeah.
More so than like an action
game. Yeah.
But then Barry, Wesker, Rebecca,
yeah.
I'm trying to think. The other guy, what's the
I'm trying to remember.
He's the guy who gets held by the Ravens.
Yeah.
The crows and shit tear him up.
I can't remember his name now.
I've never really played the first one.
Well, see, like, okay, so the original first one isn't not necessarily the version that people end up playing a lot of anyway, because you had the director's cut, which changed to fit things for the rest of the game, because the original game is a standalone game.
Yeah.
There is no other version. Wesker dies, like he's done. And then, Barry, he went off to Canada or something.
He took a boat trip on a GameCube game. I mean, on a Game Boy game, but
yeah. Well, that when he met Leon out there, and Leon turned into a zombie at the end, or he ended up being the boss because he cut his face and you see the green blood, which means he's infected, and the game goes off. But that doesn't count anymore, so don't worry about it. Yeah. But yeah, it was like this one. Like, it did so many good things from the horror genre by putting it into one house.
Yeah.
But then as you go around, you're like, hey, man, there's a lot going on in this house.
Yeah, something's going on, man. This is weird. And all of a sudden you're in this big science lab and there's these green things crawling on the roof, and it's like, I'm out.
Like, you start the game off in the what do they call it when you first walk into a big mansion? Like the foyer, I guess.
Foyer, yeah.
Yeah. So you walk in, right? You could turn around and try to open the door.
Sure can.
Soon as you try to open the door, it's like,
nope.
I'm good.
Yeah,
the live action cutscenes to start the game, like everything it was doing was just so.
Yeah. That's what really set the tone of the whole game, because it's very much set as a like B horror film, horror film even really. And that really did it.
Yeah, it did. It's just, I mean, Resident Evil, and as we go through the rest of the history of Capcom, we'll see the changes that they do to Resident Evil.
Oh, yeah.
Good and bad.
Good and bad, yeah.
But they're going to, this is the start of something.
Yeah.
Once it hit, man, Resident Evil hit. Like, it wasn't quite Street Fighter. Let's not be crazy and act like it was Street Fighter, but it was definitely like, hey, man, you probably want to get a PlayStation. Like, Capcom decided to back a console. It did have an effect. Like, eventually, Resident Evil 64 comes out and all that stuff. But early on, it was like, you can't get Capcom work if you're not using a PlayStation.
The PlayStation, yeah.
This is where Capcom is.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I know in the US it had some effect. I'm assuming in Japan it probably had a bigger effect. But
probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was the same with the SNES. You couldn't get Capcom games. You got a couple here and there, but all the best Capcom games were on the SNES. So the PS1 was the same. Resident Evil. You wasn't really getting any of the other fighting games. Yeah, this was Resident Evil.
It was a moment. Like, it hit. And you know how back in the day, like, you'd see the games be on the covers of the magazines, and that kind of told you like what the next big thing is. It was like Resident Evil all of a sudden became one where, and I know this is going to date us a lot, but it's the game where people would send in the artworks of stuff. Like, it started to become one of those games where it's everybody drawing all the dogs and the zombies, and the guy looking back like this at you. And ooh, that first cutscene, my goodness. You first meet the zombie?
Yeah.
And he's over there eating it. Hey, buddy.
He turns around. Oh, my God.
Oh, I died. No,
even worse, like, so he stands up and you go to run away, but then the camera changes, so now you can't see him. Now it's like you're aiming, but you don't know where he is. He's still coming, and if you're close, he's like right there. Oh, God. It's like, screw this game.
I'm not gonna lie to you. That was the first game after playing games for a long time where it was like, okay, I ain't putting this on hard. I need the gun.
Oh, yeah. Because
I was like, oh, it's easy, medium, hard. I put it on hard. Whatever. I know I play games. I know how to do this shit. You start the game, it's like you got a knife. I cut the guy with the knife and it didn't. It didn't work. I hit him.
Got me. What the heck? Yeah.
But this is definitely not to be part 2, right?
Yeah. We're running out of time. We only made it to 96-ish. So
still got some time.
We got some time. There's a lot more stuff to go over, and we'll hit on it next week. So this is gonna be a 2-parter. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Let us know in the comments if you like stuff like this.
Yeah,
we're going through the history of different things. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace.